She wasn't born for the spotlight, she descended into it. Like a shadow across the sunlit decade of the 60s, Nico was never truly part of the world that adored her. Beautiful, distant, and devastatingly enigmatic, she haunted the music scene like a ghost already aware of her own legend. But behind the marble face and hushed voice was a lifetime of chaos, addiction, and an endless search for meaning. This is not just the story of Nico the singer, this is the story of Krista Pefgen, the lost soul who tried to turn pain into poetry. She was born Krista Pefgen in Cologne, 1938, a child of war, raised among ruins, sirens and silence. Her father disappeared during World War II, likely killed in a concentration camp. Her childhood was steeped in trauma, displacement, and a sense that safety was an illusion, that the world could vanish overnight. By the time she was 16, she had already fled into myth. Modelling across Europe, Berlin, Paris, Rome, she became a face that others projected fantasies onto. But inside, she was dissociating. Modelling was not expression, it was erasure, and Nico felt more like a mannequin than a muse. But there was something about her, something unplaceable. Her beauty wasn't warm or inviting, it was glacial, arresting, like something from a forgotten century. Fellini cast her in La Dolce Vita, and for a moment the world mistook her for a goddess. But Nico wasn't chasing fame. Fame chased her, shrouded in cigarette smoke, existential stares, and the kind of silence that only follows beauty misunderstood. In New York, she collided with Andy Warhol, the high priest of pop art. He didn't hear her voice first, he saw her, tall, statuesque, otherworldly. Warhol decided she would sing for the Velvet Underground, whether she belonged or not. And she didn't belong, not really. She floated through the band like a ghost, detached. Lou Reed didn't want her there. John Cale was intrigued. But Warhol insisted, and Nico, with her deadpan presence, stood on stage like a statue humming lullabies for a doomed generation. Her voice was not beautiful, not in the traditional sense. It was deep, flat, haunting, as if she was already singing from beyond some invisible veil. On the Velvet Underground and Nico, she became the narrator of despair, the voice behind Femme Fatale and All Tomorrow's Parties, songs about emptiness wrapped in velvet. But Nico was never content being a passenger. She left the Velvets and walked into the dark on her own. Her solo work was nothing like the pop-tinged psychedelia of the 60s. It was stark, barren, uncompromising. On the Marble Index and Desert Shore, she played the harmonium like a funeral dirge and sang in a monotone that frightened record executives. This was not entertainment. This was invocation. She had exiled herself from the mainstream and embraced the void. In the 1970s, she descended deeper into obscurity. She dyed her hair black, refused to smile, abandoned her beauty. To her, it had always been a curse. She didn't want to be adored. She wanted to be understood. She became a nomad, living in squats, drifting through Europe with her harmonium and a rotating cast of musicians. She played to half-empty rooms, slept in train stations, and refused to participate in her own myth. At times, she begged for food. Other times, she lashed out, burned bridges, vanished. She battled heroin. She raised her son as best as she could. And she carried a grief she never fully articulated, the kind that becomes bone-deep cellular. During this time, she also had a brief, chaotic relationship with Jim Morrison. He called her the female me. And though their connection was short-lived, it left a mark. She claimed he appeared to her in visions after his death, guiding her toward darker, more experimental music. Whether imagined or real, this ghost of Morrison became another thread in her internal mythology. Her music became ritual, not product. She transformed silence and minimalism into emotional language. Her voice didn't reach out, it pulled you inward, into her loneliness, into the ache. She built entire albums around emptiness, around truth, around the refusal to lie. By the 1980s, Nico had become a relic to the mainstream, but to those paying attention, she was becoming something far more powerful, a prophet of the avant-garde. Her performances were raw, unstable, sometimes terrifying. She wasn't trying to impress, she was trying to survive. And even in her most broken state, she kept creating, not for fame, not for validation, but because it was the only thing she had left that was real. In 1988, on a trip to Ibiza, Nico went for a bike ride under the Mediterranean sun. She suffered a heart attack, fell and hit her head. She was found hours later, already slipping away. She died in a hospital, alone. The doctors didn't even know who she was. No entourage, no paparazzi, no headlines, just silence. But death didn't diminish her. It clarified her. After her death, Nico didn't fade. She deepened. She became a quiet icon for misfits and visionaries, a blueprint for those who refuse to compromise. From indie rock to drone, from shoegaze to neo-folk, her fingerprints are everywhere. Her voice echoes in artists like Chelsea Wolfe, Zola Jesus, Lingua Ignota. Her refusal to please became its own form of grace. Her music teaches us that beauty doesn't have to be beautiful. Sometimes it has to be broken to be true. She was a voice from the margins, whispering truths the spotlight could never illuminate. Nico didn't fit in her time. She barely fit in her own life, but that was her gift. She dragged beauty through the mud and made something sacred out of sorrow. She didn't give us answers, only atmosphere, echo, and ache. While others chased the light, Nico became the dark, and somehow, from that darkness, she built her cathedral. Today, her name is whispered, revered in the quiet corners of the avant-garde, sampled, cited, resurrected by those who know emotion doesn't need volume. Her records, once dismissed, now feel like transmissions from a parallel world, one where beauty and ruin are the same thing. She wasn't trying to be remembered, that's why we remember her. This is not the story of a pop star, it's the story of a woman who broke away from the spotlight to find something real in the shadows. And for those who listen closely, in the drone of the harmonium, in the space between her notes, Nico is still there. You've heard the story of Nico, not just the singer, but the soul behind the silence. Now we want to hear yours. What does Nico mean to you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Like the video if it spoke to you, and share it with someone who still listens for voices in the shadows. And thank you for watching the very first video on Because We Dig Music. This is just the beginning, and we're glad you're here. Subscribe for more stories of artists who lived between beauty and tragedy. Why are you watching this video? Because we dig music and everything it leaves behind.